GSL Season 2.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Interesting result we had back there. Rogue actually losing to Zoun. 1-2. So Zoun is going up against Maru here. I do think this should be a pretty straightforward one. I think Maru wins here, but let's see what Zoun can do. I mean, he already beat Rogue. Maybe he can do it again here with Maru.
I imagine early on in this series, oh god, excuse me, choking my words for a second. I imagine early on in this series between Maru and Zoun, Maru is likely to test Zoun with a couple of early game builds, say going for, you know, some different flavors of siege tank timings in the early game, potentially with the boys getting pulled tasteless.
Yep.
And if Zoun is able to successfully navigate through that, I think we're going to see much more macro games. But first, you got to get through the early builds. I think they've had so much success in the GSL Codesk so far this year, these early siege tank pushes, that it just seems like it is the way it's going to go.
Maru looking cool and collected. I'm curious how exactly Zoun's going to approach this. You know, whatever the best PvT that he has right now, this is when you bring it out. You know?
Yeah, it's definitely something to learn from.
I think Zoun's definitely improved a lot. You know, he kind of went from being one of these players that was, you know, kind of
Map 1 has loaded in. Maru spawning in the bottom right is the blue Terran, Zoun the red Protoss in the top left.
Yeah. And, you know, Maru, by the way, just looking stellar today in his games. Probably hungry after that GSL loss in the Final Four, come back here and dominate, win another GSL. We don't know if there's going to be a Season 3, so, you know, if he's going to win a GSL this year, it has to be the season, at least for now.
Yeah.
For what we know we have, right?
I think Maru may be a little bit humbled by finally dropping his series versus SHIN, which, you know, it's not an embarrassing thing to lose to SHIN. SHIN is one of the best Zerg players in the world. He's arguably the best Zerg player in Korea so far this year, but Maru just had such a good record that I bet you he's one of these players that takes that loss and just practices even harder and comes back stronger. And so I'm really looking forward to what Maru can do should he make it to another round of 4 offline finals.
So we have the SCV coming directly across the map. Zoun actually went for kind of a little U-turn scout around here at the lower left side of the map. Just to see, is there like Terran proxying anything right away? And the eBay block is going to get off, so this probably will force a Nexus somewhere else, unless probes are going to commit to damaging down the eBay.
I think the probes likely will commit because Zoun is going cybernetics for gateway here, and he was able to get on top of the SCV fast enough that there wasn't very much production on this engineering bay. So Nexus a little bit delayed. They go down at 21 supply, 145. Not the worst here for Zoun.
Yeah, I mean, basically the command center and the Nexus both start at the same time here. And, you know, we've had several different approaches here, PvT. It does feel like each of the Protosses have really come out with different types of favorite techs. We saw with Clem, you know, being pretty active, pushing a lot, even going for the 4-gate style. We've had other Protosses, you know, go for 3 gateways with a later 3rd base here, and tech, you know, further up into Blink. We have still seen the 2-gate play into 3rd base, which is maybe the greediest. We saw that with Classic even.
Yeah, the 2-gate, you might go for it if you feel especially safe in the early game.
Yeah.
But if you don't have the scouting information, it's definitely a gamble. And I don't think Zoun is going to be doing something like that here.
Yeah.
Likely going to be much more safe play versus a Maru who has shown a wide range of builds in TVP so far in Code S this year. Zoun is working his way across the map here with this depth. The Reaper is going to loop back and see if he can get another scout into the main base of Protoss. And that Twilight Council is built right on the front lines. So should Maru try to get into the main, if he decides he's willing to sacrifice the Reaper, will get the scout off.
Yep. Oh, blocks the gate. And he'll be able to go into the main now. Full scout here. Seeing the Twilight Council finishing. Again, you're not seeing a ton here. There's nothing like, oh my god, a Twilight Council. Like, I didn't see that coming. But you at least know exactly what he's got. You know where this game is.
Yeah, it's always good to have a confirmation scout, even if you're 99% sure.
Yeah.
Just being able to get that extra 1% to be absolutely certain that it is what you expect. It takes a load off of your mind. It means you don't need to plan for some really unlikely scenarios here. Zoun is going for about as standard a build as it possibly gets. It is 3 gateways in a robo. This is the most conservative opening building up to a 3rd expansion in modern PvT. And Maru on his side of the map, he's going into Cloak Banshees. We'll see if Cloak actually finishes getting research here or if it will be canceled. And likely Siege Tanks behind it.
Yeah, with the Banshee Cloak coming up here, we'll have to see how prepared exactly Zoun is. You know, sometimes we have these games, they send the, if they get an observer, they'll send it all the way across the map. The Banshee just makes a big L scout here around the corner, and then you can end up losing a lot of workers here. Nice block. He's going to take out that Hellion, so no second scout after that Reaper comes in.
Yeah, the 3rd base is taken here for Zoun. And again, a very safe setup here for Protoss. 3 gateways of production means the Stalkers will slowly be trickling in, but consistently will be trickling in. And Zoun should have enough to deal with this Banshee without too much trouble, as long as the Stalkers are well positioned. The first observer is already on the field, although I think it's going to the center of the map. Actually, I say this, there is no second observer in production. It just now starts, but it's a little bit late. And with no shield battery in the natural expansion, Maru might be able to get a couple of kills tasteless.
Yeah. Let's see how many he's going to get. The Cloak is activated. He has not fired it off yet. Again, the second observer is going to be very fortunate.
Yeah, but Zoun has no idea. So where is that second observer going to go?
Oh, now I think when you see this Banshee, you should know. Oh, nice. He takes that out. And the kills have started to pile up over here. He's got up to 4 probe kills in the main. The observer is inbound here. The Stalkers are going to be much faster, but the observer is so slow it can't catch up to the Banshee.
Yeah, so 1 Banshee gets sniped for free, and a bit of a lucky catch for Zoun, but 6 probes fall on the main base. Honestly, it almost feels like a wash right now.
Yeah.
Being able to pick off that first Banshee. 6 probes is a lot of losses, but 1 Banshee for free feels really good.
Yeah, he's got the observer right-clicked on the Banshee now, so there's not going to be any more surprises there. Going with the additional gates, going with charge, going with the robotics bay. Looking a lot like the games we casted yesterday, PvT.
Yeah, and usually when Terrans go for pushes against this, which I think is the direction that we're going right now, in fact, with +1, stim, and combat shields all about lined up, I think that's definitely where we're going to go. Maru's likely going to be moving out in the next 20 or 30 seconds. A lot of these timings hit right when the first Colossus is out, and long before Thermal Lance is going to be done. And I think that will be the same story here.
A lot of times, the idea is that like the Thermal Lance, or even just the Colossus normal attack, you kind of kite with your Stalkers, with the Colossus, and over time that Thermal Lance chews up all the Marines. And then by the time the tank's sieged up, it's just not viable. And so when you push like this, you basically get there as the Colossus comes out. And so you probably already, if it's perfectly timed, you're already set up in siege mode. You've got your position, you're doing your damage. And sometimes I think you might even want to try to push where the Robo is. Most Protosses put the Robo in the natural, and so sometimes that's a great target to try to hit.
And I'm not sure about Zoun blinking back on the defensive side like this. I think these Stalkers are better utilized trying to catch reinforcements moving between these armies, because Maru is happy to chase Zoun all the way back to his base.
Yeah, he's going to be moving through here anyways. Now charge is done, but the tanks are going to siege up. He's got the Marauders in the front to basically soak damage.
Zoun needs to buy more time. The first Colossus is only about halfway done. I don't think you can try and engage this army until the Colossus is out.
Yeah, I mean, he's already taken out a lot. There's so many Widow Mines here. The Colossus pops out, and it's going to be working to get... Oh my god, he keeps that tank alive. That's insane.
Tank barely survives. The Widow Mines actually did a lot of friendly fire damage, though, on top of the bio, and so Zoun is able to break out of the natural expansion with the additional firepower of the Colossus, with the Widow Mines getting a favorable shot. for Protoss on the Zealots and also hitting the Marines, hitting the Marauders there. And that was an excellent hold for Zoun. It was looking dicey for a long time, but we talk about a breakout performance of being able to absolutely cover that position of Maru's.
Yeah, I mean, he's coming in here now, and I don't know, man. I feel like Maru was looking great until those Widowmine hits really damaged everything. And now it's going to be hard for him to have a third base. Zoun's already taken his fourth base. Thermalance is going to be done. A lot of everything Terran was doing back there is sort of hinged on that push doing much, much more. Now the medevacs are stuck up here.
Yeah, it almost feels like if you lose a push like that as Terran, the only option is to try and go for exhaust play. And so I wonder if that's the game that Maru is going to try and send us down now. And Maru, kind of similar to the way that a Protoss player would play in the early stages of a PvT, is going to be trying to use these dropship plays just to buy time, just to keep Zoun on Zoun's side of the map, because Maru needs time to get Vikings out, to get more Widowmines out, potentially even build a couple more siege tanks if he wants to go down that route, just to get the static defense up. But man, Zoun with another excellent catch, 2 nearly full medevacs, one of them barely surviving actually, 3 HP, a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, I can't believe that actually got away. So the third base has just been taken. SCVs were just right-clicked onto those minerals. You know, Maru actually with a pretty big army, despite how much he's lost here, both in fights and just medevacs being picked off. So, I mean, he's macroing pretty well. So, you know, maybe he's still got a shot in this, despite, you know, everything on paper looking pretty bad for him.
Yeah, Widowmine's causing a disruption right now. Zoun's happy just to take the loss in terms of mining time, because his entire army, it's on a beeline towards the third base of Terran. Photon cannons being set up in every single mineral line means that these Widowmines, they're not going to be able to buy too much time anymore here for Maru. And now it's Zoun's time to move. Can he catch this bio?
Yeah, he's coming down right now. And, I mean, he didn't really get much done there. I guess he does take that medevac out. I don't know why these medevacs are even over here. He's going to have another warp in. This warp prison, by the way, could not be in a safer position. Although, obviously, he can't kind of reinforce as quickly. I think he might want to try to move in and attack again. The problem now is that the Viking count is increasing. You know, when you get enough of those Vikings, you're happy to trade them out for the Colossus. And without the Colossus, you don't really have anything. He is going for Disruptors as a tech shift here.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised at the fast tech switch and Disruptors when it feels like all the momentum is behind Zoun. If this was Hero in this situation, I think we would have like 3 or 4 more gateways, and he would just be sending it at the third base of Terran.
Yeah, it almost feels like he's given up on the Colossus tech the moment he saw the Vikings. He's like, oh, I can't do that.
Yeah, but the position for Zoun, it's so good right now. And I feel like if you're going into Disruptors against an exhaust play, it's not going to help you quite as much as just having a large number of gateway units and some Colossus to assist. But let's see what the Disruptors can do. Maybe it can actually crack the shell on this third base. They're at least excellent at clearing Widowmines, which Maru's been relying on heavily here to defend the third base. So that is one thing that is going to be an advantage here for Zoun. I don't know about this Tasteless.
Yeah, this is looking pretty impenetrable on some level. Like, Protoss is basically bleeding Zealots off that don't touch anything. Most of the time, the Colossus aren't even getting shots off. The Disruptors might change this, though. The Disruptors might force a Terran to you know, respect what Protoss has and moves away. The problem is we're not really seeing a lot get done here, right? He's not denying the base. Basically, Protoss is having units shaved off over and over again. Nice EMP on that, too.
Against the Sentry and a large clump of units now without their shields. Zoun's going to pivot down, attack up this ramp. Widowmine's going to get some big shots on those Zealots on the front line, though. Disruptors will likely be able to push the bio back, but Zoun not even sending the Disruptor shots out, just instead peeling back. I mean, 14 Zealots have fallen for basically nothing.
The Vikings are now going to come in here and hit those Colossus. And, you know, it's funny. When you watch Maru fight, sometimes it looks like Protoss would never be able to beat Terran. You know? You're like, oh, of course, this game's broken. Terran have never lost before, but we know that's not the case, right? But it just, there's something about the way that he moves and how he spreads everything out and how he disengages where it just looks so perfect.
Yeah, I'm really not so sure about this Disruptor switch coming in for Zoun. I honestly feel like Zoun's playing a great macro game behind this. He's been able to expand across the map. He has the high yield Vespene gas on the bottom left side. He's double expanding to 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock. So Zoun, he's firing on all cylinders economically, but the thing is the armies just have not been trading well for him. You know, the Widowmines have been consistently getting good shots off, and it feels like Zoun should have had a huge moment pushing into the third base of Maru, considering just how well Zoun was able to defend basically everything else. But Zoun keeps attacking in, and now Maru's army seems almost unstoppable. Unless these disruptor shots get huge connections, I don't see any way that Maru's army is going to get cleaned up by what Zoun has.
Yeah, and for now, again, he's not. I mean, look, Maru's going to get on a fourth base. Let's assume that this is going to be that exhaust play game, which is really what it looks like, right? Eventually, he's going to switch into all Marauders. In fact, he's almost there. He's got 24 Marauders. And he's going to have his moment to maybe counter push here. And you just need 4 to 5 bases as Terran to do that. Planetary over here.
Moves forward, loses 2 Stalkers, and switches back over here. It's hard to attack into these positions. You know, there's a choke point here in this center. Zoun actually going to push into this one. It's a tough choke to try and get through. You know, the arc for Terran's going to be massive on the other side.
Yeah, no matter how you push in, the Terran's going to be in a better position here.
But then if you go over to the right side, there's a planetary waiting for you.
Yeah, DT Blink being upgraded here.
I wonder how many gateways Zoun has right now. Whatever count it is, I feel like it isn't enough. I would love to see this go up to like 16 or more. Oh, he's adding 7 more. Okay, excellent, excellent. 19 gateways in total soon.
Just totally takes out those DTs. One more is going to try to slip through, probably heading towards... Okay, here we go. Hold on. Oh, big attack.
Oh! Disruptor shots not getting the connections because Maru's able to focus fire down the Disruptors first. The Colossus all fall to the Vikings. Warp Prism's going to drop as well. And Zoun is back to sticks and stones. Nothing but Zealots and Stalkers here on the ground, as those Disruptors certainly going to be picked off on the retreat. And this is Maru's time to push across the map and see what he can get done.
Yeah, that is pretty painful, man. And, you know, when you're warping in and all you've got are these gateways, I don't know if you're going to have the right stuff. You know, we didn't see Storm. Again, he kind of abandoned the Colossus tech here. And, I mean, this is just like an insane number of Marauders with, by the way, Medivacs has still got enough heal here that they can probably win the next fight or two. The angling here is good for Protoss, but I think Terran still just has too much. Look at this. He's just targeting down the Stalkers. The Vikings, oh, excuse me, there's now Colossi coming out 3 at a time. So he switched back into that, so we're going to have to see Viking production start again.
Yeah, Zoun's been able to successfully remax. He had a big bank after the last engagement, so Maru going to have to retreat. Likely going to need to rejoin forces with what he's got mustered up back at home. But actually, Maru was setting up for kind of a split push. You can see all these units were sequestered on the top right side of the map as Maru was going to try and hit those expansions.
Yeah, the problem is that this is getting kind of low in numbers. He's going to hit from the side now. I don't know that Zoun is totally prepared.
Yeah, there's not a lot of assistance here for these Colossi. And the moment the Marauders close the distance, 2 Colossi are going to drop. And with it, most of the firepower here for Protoss. So Zoun once more retreating the safety of an expansion. But whenever you're going for these engagements with just Zealots and Stalkers, it's usually hard to find the angle.
He's just so good.
Maru's going to win game number 1.
Beautifully done.
But honestly, it really feels like that should have been a win for Zoun. The way that he just stomped the first push out from Maru and was able to quickly expand to a 4th base.
Well, it's funny. It's like he had that part figured out. In my mind, Terran
that was
fails.
beautiful.
In my mind, Terran fails with that push. I'm like, okay, you're probably winning, right? Like you probably take this game. Just do now whatever you're supposed to do in that matchup. But again, I think he like ditched the Colossus tech so fast.
It felt like it was too quick.
And then he was like just entirely reliant on disruptors. It never really did anything.
Yeah, they were able to clear up a couple of Widowmines. They got some connections, but you know, they don't one-shot Marauders anymore. They need to get quite a bit of damage done to those Marauders before they actually get one-shot. Otherwise, the Medivacs are going to heal. By the way, Maru getting the Medivac energy regen upgrade was really cool to see. It's one of the reasons why those Medivacs were actually able to power through the healing despite so many skirmishes all over the map. But yeah, Zoun, I hope if he gets into another position like that in game number 2, he is going to be able to do something a little more gateway focused, because if that was Hero, I think we would have like 4 or 5 more gateways. It's just non-stop aggression into the third base of Terran. Not relying on the finesse of the Disruptors, but instead just raw power with the Protoss economy, because I think that's how you leverage the advantages of Protoss to go for a win. If you let Maru build up basically the perfect army with a bunch of Marauders, with a bunch of Vikings to deal with the Colossi, and some Ghosts added in for EMPs, I don't think the disruptor transition is going to do it. You cannot give Maru that kind of time. Maru is just too good in the late game, even for a player of Zoun's caliber, having an advantage going into the late game. I don't think I want to test Maru there. You got to try and win it early.
I'm worried for Zoun here, because I think if there was a game he was going to win, it should have been that one. He did enough things right, and Maru did enough things wrong. And the fact that Maru basically just kind of let the game play out and still got to that unstoppable army of like just mass marauders and medevacs, I don't know. It was pretty scary. Let's see what happens now as we go into game 2.
All right, 10,000 feet has loaded in. Maru spawning in the bottom right as the blue Terran. Zoun, the red Protoss in the top left. And yeah, you put it quite well. If you lose game 1 after a hold like that, it is not a very promising sign for game 2 and game 3. Because you can't really get into a more advantaged position after besides that, right?
Right. Yeah, it's just like, you know, it's yeah, it's rough. I'm very curious how, you know, the rest of this series could look for Zoun. Because, you know, again, there's a real chance Maru does like another 2-base timing attack and wins. Right? I mean, he almost looked like he had the perfect setup, but he ended up absorbing so much of his own damage onto his army, right?
Yeah, I would like to jump into a replay of that engagement one more time, because it seemed like Maru had enough, and the positioning was pretty good for Maru. But 4 Widow Mines is a lot of Widow Mines, and it seemed like they all connected at the same point when the Zealots were flush up against the bio.
Yeah.
And they just shellacked the Marines.
Well, it was
the
funny
Marines took so much damage.
When I saw the setup, I thought, oh, Maru wins now. Like, this is the end. And then after that explosion, you look and you go, oh, Terran does not have a lot anymore.
I wonder if it's better just to stagger the positioning of the Widow Mines a little bit, just to prevent one unfortunate shot like that from kind of upending the entire push.
Yeah, you might be right. So this is going to be 1-1-1 tech here with the expansion a little bit later.
Bit of a delayed expansion here for Maru with a 2-gas opening, but it does allow him to really unlock the early harassment-based options faster than you typically would if you went for just a Reaper expand and then added in the 2nd gas and try to build up with 1-1-1. So we'll see what Maru's going to go for with this. With the reactor being constructed here on the barracks, I think it's likely going to be something like a Hellion push. Just try and find a little bit of probe damage early on and then parlay that into something there in the mid-game, but with the factory finishing up, we'll see in just a moment exactly where Maru wants to take this.
Okay. So, you know, probably the same starting point here for Protoss, the Blink Tech, you know, the 3rd base, the inevitable 3rd base with the Robo. I'm more concerned for Zoun, mostly in how he's going to tech in a long game. Right, assuming that we get to a super long game, by the way.
Yeah, and
again,
also...
go ahead, please.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, it actually isn't going to be the Hellion play coming in for Maru. He starts with a Cyclone and Reactored Marines.
Yeah, interesting. Sometimes Terrans poke with this. So let's see, you know, a lot of times when you get these 1-1-1 armies, you know, you can get these, you know, little technical drops, and there's so many different versions of them. And you come in and you try to do some damage and see what you can trade out with. The Reaper is going to get shut down here, so no more scouting there.
Reaper vanishing out of existence as the Stalker's able to take it down. And Zoun's going into 3 gateways and Blink before the robotics facility, which I actually like quite a lot versus what Maru's going for.
Yeah, this is a much safer approach.
Yeah, and the gateways are going to come online so quickly. I'm not sure what the tell was to Zoun that this isn't going to be Cloak Banshee, because Cloak Banshee would be an issue for this. And there is a robotics facility coming online, so it's not like Zoun will be completely dead to rights if it was a Cloak Banshee play coming in. But the fact that these 3 gateways are all going to be done before the medevac hits the main base or the Cybernetics Core wall in here for Zoun is pretty big.
Okay. The fact that this is getting shut down immediately is a really good sign here for Zoun. Because Terran wants to try to trade out as much as they can. The medevac's damage, he's going to have to go all the way back home. Doesn't really accomplish that much. Raven here as well. We'll probably see the Raven just go out and throw auto turrets down behind the minerals.
And keep in mind that Terran, you sacrificed a little bit going for an early dropship play like this one. It was a double gas opening here. The command center on the low ground, it's a little bit later than it typically would be for a 1 barracks mass expand. And so the fact that Zoun was able to deflect the first attack that easily, just take a little bit of hull damage on one Stalker. It's just a beautiful start for Zoun again here in game number 2.
All right, well, Terran is powering up here. We've got the stim, we've got the combat shields here. Protoss taking the third base. And we've got the spotter stalkers outside here, just to see if and when that Terran push comes.
It's a really nice defensive setup here for Zoun. Just have 4 stalkers outside the natural expansion of Maru. They can one-shot Marines if Maru starts to try and work his way across the map. And then a little squadron of stalkers between the main base and the natural expansion on Protoss' side of the map, just making sure that if there's any more dropship play coming in from Maru, well, Zoun has an answer for that too. And interestingly, Maru, I kind of was expecting him to go into another siege tank push, especially after he built the early tech lab there for the factory. You can build a Cyclone, you get the early safety net of the Cyclone, and then you kind of pivot into some kind of siege tank pressure earlier on. There's no tanks on the map at all. Maru didn't build a single tank so far. It's going to be a pure barracks play coming through.
Okay, he's continuing to move up here. He's going to have that Raven with this. Oh, and he's going to be able to get the Observer. That's big. There is still one Observer, I believe, in the game. Is he going to go for the armor shred here? How does he want to approach this exactly? You can see the targeting happen on the Raven. The Raven's still at half health. He's going to burrow these Widow Mines. The stim starts. Auto turrets come down. He's going to force this third base to go down. Beautifully done here by Maru. And you can't really do anything until those auto turrets dissipate. And even then, I think it's too late.
Yeah, Charges isn't done yet. It was 1 chrono boost away from completion.
Oh my god, and he's supply blocked.
Oh yeah, because you lose the Nexus, you lose the pylon.
Yeah, so he actually can't warp in more. Oh my god.
I mean, you almost want to go for a trade right now because you need to warp in more units, right?
Yeah.
I feel like Zoun should be fighting. Okay, Zoun is moving in. Another pylon.
The Colossus can't get out. There's no pylon.
Oh, this is crazy. Colossus at 99% completion. Now he's supply blocked because of the pylon. Okay, the Colossus is going to come out. Enough gateways have fallen. The Colossus actually can pop.
That was insane. That was so much damage that Maru did. And look, I mean, he's going to basically get back untouched. In fact, the Stalkers that do manage to reach him are picked off, so Zoun's going to turn around. Zoun in a very losing position here. Very, very losing. Third command center starts after the attack hits. A lot of these builds we've seen TVP, they kind of start the command centers, they move out, and by the time the push succeeds or fails, you go back, you go, okay, he's got a third base up, but that was a very late third base for him. And so Zoun's going to double expand.
I think this is a smart move. You need to make up for some lost ground after losing your third Nexus. But it's going to be painfully expensive to try and saturate both of these bases, even if you only focus on the minerals. And Zoun also has to watch out for the next move from Maru, because that move, the initial push out, it had combat shields and stim. It did not yet have +1 infantry weapons, and I think Maru, in just a moment, especially after these mine drops sync up, is going to have another good window to get some damage done. You get 4 or 5 Vikings, and suddenly you can actually go on the map again and try and contest these Colossus plays.
Okay. Somehow this medevac is alive. Never mind. Okay. Well, these Nexuses are going to finish up, and then we're going to see if Zoun can play a little bit of catch-up here. The Colossus techie is incrementing these Colossi out. Going to just leave this medevac up here with the 2 Widow Mines inside.
No more Colossi in production here is a little bit concerning for Zoun.
Well, maybe, okay, so, I was talking about how he kind of, almost cowarded out of making the Colossi. It almost seems like he just actually stops at 2.
I'm not sure how I feel about that.
I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
I know that Maru is going into, by the way, Widow Mines should get some good connections here. 3 probes falling. I know that Maru is working on the answer to them by turning out some Vikings, but 2 Colossus just doesn't seem like the right amount. I'm at least glad that it isn't a disruptor transition behind this. I think going for Warp Prism play, adding in extra gateways, these are some smart moves coming out by Zoun. Taking out the engineering base and the Ghost Academy would be huge. Unfortunately, I don't think there's enough DPS to get the engineering bay. the Ghost Academy likely will fall.
Yeah, that's pretty big, taking the Ghost Academy out here. Going to recall some of these Zealots back here. And now he's going to hit the front. I love this. Can he actually take this out, though? Meanwhile, there's going to be a small drop over here. This could end up killing a lot of workers.
Oh, Raven going to fall. And Zoun getting some nice damage done, but Maru also took out 11 probes on the other side of the map with that drop, so...
Yeah, does Maru try to push out now, or does he just sit back and continue to power? Maru actually got pretty beat up back there, between the Zealot Warpin and then the forced lift. I mean, that was 13 SCVs killed. I guess Maru's little drop actually did a bit of catch up there, killing 11 probes here as well.
I think one more production cycle of Vikings and you can probably go here as Maru.
I think so.
But you also don't have to. Maru, if he wanted, could try and play the exhaust play. Zoun has been disrupted enough economically that I think it is possible. I mean, the big income advantage that we see here is just because the main and then the third base subsequently got pulled in terms of SCVs as they were evacuating against the Warp Prism drop, against the push at the front. The actual sustained income for Zoun versus Maru is relatively even. It's only Zoun finally getting ahead now because the fourth base has been saturated here on minerals.
Okay, Stalker's out here now. Again, just a 3-base Terran. The 4th command center is almost done. I would not be shocked if he just fills that bottom base in. The one below is 3rd. That's probably the easiest, safest space to take. Bottom left, by the way, also very takeable for Terran on this map. It's very much a map you can take 5 bases on.
Yeah, and I think Maru, he's happy just to take this expansion, even though he could likely push across the map right now with 100 army supply to the 70 or so of Zoun. Maru is good enough at the late game that he's going to be content to have 4 bases, fully saturated mining with the Fusion Core coming online, likely Liberator range, and Medevac energy will be researched here for Maru. And he might be able to play some Cure-esque exhaust TVP against a Protoss player who, Zoun has been able to lick his wounds and bounce back with double expand, with 2 more expansions now coming in, one in the center, one on the far left side next to that main base. And double Warp Prism. This is SOS. I think SOS was able to bring out this move earlier on here, this GSL Code S.
Okay, some scans over here, confirming that the space has been resaturated. And again, I think Maru basically just going to play a very, very quiet game from here on out.
Yeah, I think you want to just max out at least before you push out. Or ideally take one favorable trade and then keep the pressure on the Protoss, because Protoss will be scrambling to remax after the first fight.
Well, it's funny, Maru's way ahead in supply compared to Zoun. Zoun was in the 160s earlier.
Yeah.
So, like,
there is a window for Maru to get damage done.
Yeah.
I feel like he's just choosing the safer option. Why would you risk it?
Well, he also, I think he doesn't know he's ahead, perhaps.
Or at least by this much, right?
Most of these games, Protoss is on like 6 bases, and you just assume they're maxed out, and the money's piling up, and there's 6 more gateways making and everything like that. Zoun has a setup here to possibly do a big double warp in here into the main.
I feel like usually when you see this, it's with Warp Prism speed. I think actually Observer speed is the one getting researched right now, but these upgrades look nearly identical. Yeah. Just my intuition is telling me that's Observer speed. I could be wrong.
Now, one of the issues with this...
Oh yeah, he's getting both. Warp Prism is next.
Okay, so he's going to move out here now. All right, he sees the double Warp Prism here. Yeah, I mean, Maru's just stayed back. But as I was going to say a second ago, the big issue is are you going to be ready for this late game push from Terran? Do you have what it takes? Right now, I'm not so sure. I think you need a lot of different types of splash damage. You need to have a lot of counterattacks ready to go. Zoun's going to push in here and just take out the sensor tower, trying to zone Terran off of the soon-to-be 5th base in the bottom left.
Oh, and double Warp Prism coming into the natural expansion. Unfortunately, the Vikings are here, so even with 2 Warp Prisms, Zoun unlikely to actually get a Warp in here.
Doesn't really do anything, to be honest. He can damage that command center, but I think SCVs can even save that. He's going to go ahead and commit down. He's going to take that out.
I think Maru just, if he turns around and takes the fight, might actually be able to win it. There's no Zealots with that army at all.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought that was actually something he probably could try to fight there.
Yeah, but Maru just playing the very safe game. He doesn't want to take any risks.
I do think cannons are good to put down now for Zoun. There's a point where you have so much money, and you're going to have money in the next couple of attacks, but just to have, he's going to make more gateways here. If you have enough cannons, something like 1 Medevac and 8 Marines can't do damage. Because what happens to a lot of Protoss is they have all these bases, but they're not defended at all. If you have like 4 cannons, it's like, okay, well then that can't be hit by a medevac, right? Now you have to push into that to take that out.
Yeah, we'll see if Zoun's going to add any more static defense. I kind of like the approach of just taking more bases instead as like a hedge.
Yeah, that's
like you know,
too.
like if you want, you could just recall the probes from one base to another one. And if you have a lot of expansions, you don't really mind losing any particular expansion. But we do see Zoun adding in a bit of static defense. Zoun looking to try and corral this army on the right side while Maru takes out the expansion at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, takes that base out. He's going to move down here into the bottom left. Keep in mind, if Zoun is only in this like top layer of bases, he's eventually going to run out of money. Okay, we see the push coming in here. We need to see the rest of the infantry. Ooh. He just shoots down the command center and runs out. I kept believing that infantry were going to be there in time, and it didn't happen. He just pops that command center, sending Terran back to 3 bases.
Yeah, it looked like Maru was setting up to try and attack the expansion close to the main base of Zoun, but then he saw Zoun's army on the other side of the map, and now another engagement's coming in. The bio reinforcements are finally here. That will cause Zoun to pull out of this position, and I think Maru can chase this down. I feel like he should, honestly. There aren't a lot of Stalkers right now. The Vikings can take out the Colossus. There's a ton of Marauders to chew through everything else on the ground. Yeah, excellent move by Maru. I mean, this is a magnificent win. I think behind this, you just try and stop the bleeding here at the 3rd base and the 4th base, and you push.
Yeah, he's pushing now. The question is, what can Protoss remake? Not a lot of gas, a ton of minerals, but Zealots alone aren't going to cut it.
These Stalkers are very important here for Zoun. It's the only answer that he has for the Liberators, and the gas income, it is very low for Protoss right now. It's basically just Zealots being warped in, but I think there's enough Zealots that they can just overwhelm this position, Tasteless.
Yeah, well, he's going to keep kiting. Stalkers are going to blink in. And, I mean, that's just so many Zealots. He's going to pick up and run away. The Stalkers actually can't snipe the medevacs. So the question is, what does Maru have back at home to try to keep dealing with this? Zoun keeps taking these bases at the bottom left and center left, but it doesn't seem like they're enough. There's a planetary over here. If SCV's just repaired, this Protoss has to run again. And then suddenly we're kind of in that same situation where Zoun has bled off a lot and is going to go back with a much less sophisticated army. And Maru can keep cranking out what he's already got. Marauders, Ghosts, Marines, medevacs.
Yeah, look at the gas income for Zoun right now. It's trickling in 8 at a time. I think that the gases in the main base have mined out, and Zoun hasn't retaken any. So he might actually be operating on 2 gases in total.
Yeah, I think it's the same problem SHIN had, is like you need to make sure you have the fresh gases ready to go, or you will literally just be making Zealots. Like, look how slow this is going up.
I think it's literally 2 assimilators that are functioning. And Zoun, this is probably an intentional move. I think he mostly just wants to remax with Zealots, but you need to keep the core Stalkers alive. If you have enough Zealots, you might just be able to overpower the position, or you just continuously churn out these Zealots. They're the meat shield, and then none of your critical gas units, the Stalkers, the Colossi, the Immortal, actually fall. And that's usually the way that you muscle through a Terran position. But if you're not able to break through, you need to start adding more gas so you can actually transition into something more viable.
It's these periphery bases that I'm worried about here for Zoun, because Maru can keep trying to lash out on the map, take him out, and then flee back home. Zoun's going to be moving down here towards the bottom left. Okay, he's going to blink in. This is a planetary. These SCVs need to start repairing, and they're not reacting in time, so that's going to be picked off. Terran once again knocked down to 4 bases. The counterattack is going to come out. The 4 bases that Terran have, I mean, he's very sealed up over here. Looks like this Nexus won't be canceled, so he's going to be able to kill that as well. And Protoss attacks in, but I do feel like this could be an overextension.
I don't know if we have a War Prism with this army. The Zealot reinforcements, they're about to arrive, but they're a little bit late to the party. Finally, now they are here, and that's going to prompt Zoun to try and take out this planetary fortress with 4 Immortals and +3 ground weapons. Zoun can power through. Stalkers working on those Liberators now. Even more Zealots streaming in. As long as the Stalkers stay alive and Zoun is able to trade Zealots for the rest of army here with Maru, I like this position for Protoss, but again, the gas tank for Protoss, it's very low. Zoun has to win this fight.
Yeah, I think Zoun's doing it. Maru's very, very low. His army's very small. The question would be, would the counterattack do enough? Zealots are going to come forward, and he is beginning to clean those up. Stalkers blink away barely in the nick of time. The problem is, okay, so by the way, there's going to be another command center landed over here. I don't have a good idea of where these other bases that Protoss have had the whole game are at.
I think this is going to be the only full mining base. Every other base, I believe, is lost at least a couple of mineral patches.
Yeah, so it's starting to get a little bit smaller here. Now, Zoun is maxing out. again. Terran's poking. This doesn't feel right from Terran, but let's see.
Maru's just so poor back at home. He has to attack into this one. The Liberators get taken out. There's just too many Zealots on the ground. I think Zoun is finally worn
There it is,
through.
GG. Wow. Great game from Zoun. That was impressive. For a little bit, I thought when he kind of dove into that base and took it out, I thought, ooh, I don't know if this is the right idea, But I guess Terran's so low. If you just poke out those few bases, the income plummets so fast for a little bit of time. You're right. All you need is the Zealots. Have a couple of Stalkers there, have a Colossus or whatever other kind of splash you have, but just have so many Zealots that the damage just kind of piles on, and there's not a whole lot that Terran can do to get it off.
Yeah, the Zealots just absorb the damage, and they do a pretty good amount of damage, too, when they're in large numbers like that. And as long as you're only trading Zealots for everything else, it's fine. The issue is when Terran's finally able to break past the Zealots and actually connect with the Immortals, with the Stalkers, with the Colossi, because those units cannot be easily replaced if you're working on... I mean, Zoun was, for a while, just 2 Vespene Geysers that were actually saturated.
Yeah. Interesting game. It's funny because Maru's push did so well. I kind of looked at that push and I'm like, okay, he took out the third. He actually denied the Colossus coming out for a while. And then he ran back, and then it was like, Zoun still just took the whole map.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Game number 3. The winner of this map moving on into the round of 4 offline finals. The loser will fall to the final match here in Group B of the round of 8. Zoun with another early probe scout. And just to go back to that game again, I wonder if we could, just in theory, say you resume from replay, Maru after he wins that push. There was a window where he was up 30 plus army supply, it felt like, either when Maru was on 3 bases or just when he was taking the 4th base. And I looked at it, and it felt like he should be moving out, Because typically, in a typical PvT, you don't want to move out in that position because Protoss is going to have too many expansions. Protoss is looking to try and trade with Terran the entire time because they want to churn out these Zealots, sacrifice them, trade them for bio, and then recharge and go in again with Zealots and just keep doing the same thing to win a war of attrition because their economy is bigger. That's why you don't go for those move-outs as Terran. But that was not a typical PvT. Maru was able to get a lot of damage done with the initial move out. He was able to destroy the 3rd base. He was able to significantly disrupt the economy from Zoun. And I think Zoun going for the double expansion, both Nexus after losing the 3rd base, was a smart move, but it was a very risky move. And I think that if Maru was able to move out before those double expansions had actually paid off, I think Maru would have been in a winning position.
I think you're probably right. I don't know that he knew that there was double expansions happening. He might have thought it was just a 3rd base, and that he was playing a tighter game. But yeah, once you get the double expo up, and then you have a little bit of time for those minerals and gas to come in from that, I think you're just in a really good spot, and you're able to recover. I mean, Terran did take a really late 3rd base. We saw the 3rd base start, that 3rd command center start after the push was finished. So, yeah. By the way, this is a barracks and factory just outside of the main.
Yeah, I was kind of expecting this just to be a proxy barracks here in the left side of the map, but actually going for a proxy factory as well, and in such an interesting position too.
And he might go for a drop with this, but the thing is, Protoss might look at this and think, oh my god.
Oh, certainly. And this is like the 2026 version of the Mocker X. It almost feels like what we're seeing right now, because it wasn't just the barracks, also the factory was proxied. Zoun still doesn't have an expansion.
He probably thinks it's a 1-1-1 hidden somewhere on the map.
Exactly. And Maru built the barracks and the factory out there, and then immediately lifts them back into the main base, and he's building a bunker in the main. He's building a command center in the main. Zoun has seen nothing. Zoun thinks this is some all incoming. There is still no expansion for Protoss. These are some insane mind games coming out of Maru right now.
Yeah, it's so smart. So basically, his Nexus will have started so late. He's making a pylon here because he thinks maybe he can make a Zealot or 2 to counterattack and hit in here. And I think now he's going to realize, oh, nothing's happening. The Reaper comes in here just to check. Oh, nice, gets that Marine in there. Going to chase out that Zealot and Stalker.
The bunker finishes just in time, and Zoun is 4-gating. That is the 4th gateway being produced, and Maru's going to scout everything.
He's so good. Here's the thing. I actually kind of like what Zoun's doing, all things considered. I think that you can't just try to make a Nexus from here. Maybe this works. I don't know. I mean, the thing is, he goes in there, he sees no Nexus, he sees 3 gates. The only piece of the puzzle he doesn't have is the 4th gate and now the Robo proxy here.
4-gate Robo on 1 base here for Zoun. Maru just needs to hold the main base, and he should be in a winning position.
Yeah.
And Siege Tanks, the first one is done.
Yeah, he's going to put this in a very conservative spot.
Yeah, I would love to see a second Siege Tank, though.
Oh, he's going to scout with the medevac. This is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Maru, he's probably finding it hard to believe that Zoun is actually 4-gating. And also, you see the 3 gateways, and it's like, oh, I fooled him. But you don't know that Zoun is doubling down on this, or even tripling down with a Robo.
Obviously, Terran buildings can fly. So when he sees that there's nothing here,
he's got to immediately go home. You need to defend now, because this is a huge attack from Zoun. I don't know if there's enough for Maru.
Yeah, Maru needs to hold here. The repair is going to come up. He is just eating a lot of splash there. He's going to take out the top SCV, so I don't think that he can repair quite. Oh my God.
There isn't enough DPS.
There just isn't enough. Yeah, the Siege Tank, the shots were so premium. They were hitting like every single target. He's going to start a late Nexus. He's going to lift this command center, which of course you're happy to do. The tank has been nudged up. And the Banshee's going to come up. Now, Banshee Cloak is on the way. I didn't even notice the Banshee Cloak was being made, to be honest. I was so caught up with that attack.
There's no observer here for Zoun.
Yeah, Zhao's going to probably lose this by having all of his probes die.
Zoun can't afford to lose any probes. He's at 23 workers right now. He's just building the first probes to start saturating the natural expansion. But Zoun is still completely fixed on trying to break Maru. He's going to try and do it with a Warp Prism and an Immortal drop to snipe the Siege Tank. But there's going to be a Cloak Banshee in the main base. There is no detection. In a world like this, it takes forever in your mind for an observer to actually finish. That's
GG.
it. GG. Maru wins game number 3. He is going to the offline finals.
You see Zoun laughing like, oh, you got me. Okay, I don't have the cloak here. That was just a brilliant game for Maru.
That was one of the coolest, cleverest builds I've seen a Terran player do in the longest time.
He basically just tricked Zoun into freaking out and over-defending, and then Zhao's like, oh, wait a minute. And then he's like, oh, I got to all in from here. And he's like, that's fine. I will make a Cloak Banshee. That was like all strategy.
That's like the biggest mind game I have seen all year.
Yeah.
Even thinking back to like previous seasons of the GSL, I can't remember a mind game that was this successful.
That was all strategy and then like really, really good repair there on the bunker.
Yeah.
That was really clutch. You could even see that Zoun was trying to kill off the SCVs at the top.
Yeah,
because it's hard. It's too hard to loop around the force field to get over there to repair. But the Siege Tank damage was too good. It's crazy.
I mean, just an incredible game played there by Maru. He's going to be advancing. And now we have, from Season 1 to Season 2, 3 of the same 4 finalists going to the offline finals.
Yeah.
Shin's the only one out, and we still have some games left to be played.
Yeah, we're going to see how he does in that ZVZ when it's finally time. But really great games from Maru. Again, that tickled me, that game. That was like so smart. I so appreciate every part of that. Perfect ending there with the Banshee Cloak. We are ready for our interview now with Maru.
Maru, congratulations on your first place victory here in Group B. Look, I have to ask you, can you walk me through the game plan there in game number 3, the Proxy Barracks and Proxy Factory? Because that was such a cool build.
네, 일단 조선주 선수 승리 축하드리고요. 일단은 마지막 게임 얘기부터 해볼게요. 일단 그 전진류 빌드에 대한 좀 얘기를 좀 해주신다면 되게 좀 신박한 빌드였거든요. 그 빌드가 어떻게 나오는지 한번 좀 얘기를 해주시죠.
예전에 이제 전진 배럭 전진 건물 많이 할 때 생각해 놓은 건데 쓸 기회가 없었는데 오늘 좀 상황이 좋았어가지고 그렇게 쓰게 됐습니다.
Yeah, this build is actually the one I have been in my mind since when I used to do a lot of proxies. I think like back in like a few years ago. So yeah, I think the circumstances may mean like not to use that build for a long time, but actually this was the time to. This was a really good chance to do that build. So yeah, just went for it.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on your victory. You are now moving on into the round of 4. You were unable to win the last season of GSL. Do you think you can win it this time?
이제 4강에 다시 진출을 하게 되셨는데 지난 시즌은 좀 아쉽게 이제 결승에 올라가지 못했지만 이번 시즌에는 좀 우승을 할 자신이 있으신지 궁금합니다.
일단 4강을 넘어야 될 것 같아가지고 도욱이 형이 준비를 잘하기도 하고 까다로울 것 같은데 그거 이기면은 충분히 가능성이 있는 것 같습니다.
Yeah, I'm not gonna like think that much, honestly. I'm just trying to beat Cure in the TVT. Since he's preparing a lot, and he's doing a lot of stuff that are hard to counter. So yeah, I'll just try to focus on the initial semifinals, and then if I get through, I think I have a good chance to win the trophy.
Well, congratulations again on your win, and best of luck in the Final Four.
감사합니다.
네, 감사합니다.
I'm like, but also wish him luck in the round of 4. I said that too. Excellent work as always, Maddox. Thank you for the translation. Matt, man, that build was sick. Anyways, guys, we actually got to cut to commercial here. SHIN versus Rogue. Little ZVZ coming up next.